Dear customers, thank you for your attention and interest in knowing more about the flex printing concept. First, let us introduce ourselves. We are Jorge Hernandez and Ronald Sturpey, partners and founders of the company 24x7 Controllers based in Miami, Florida, United States. We are a company that started operations since April 4, 2011, and we specialize in application engineering for the automation processes used in graphic printing. In our combined 75 years of experience within the printing industry, we have seen several crises and transformations that the industry has had over all these years. In a brief way, we will explain what flex printing is, its cause, its development, its future, and an alternative business plan, and important for the changes that will come in 2021 to 2022. The pandemic not only brought a contraction in all pre-established subscription markets, but it also brought an unexpected drop in printing operations that were once healthy and profitable. Printers now find themselves without resources to compensate for the crisis they face, including the declines of their current production volumes. During 2020 to 2021, we have seen some companies in our industry show revenues declines of up to 50% compared to the fourth quarter of 2019. Many companies, through no fault of their own, are experiencing the difficult task of managing variable expenses and liquidity to maintain their operations. Others face the weight of the high fixed costs of their operations and infrastructure. These further limits them in their reorganization options. But it is not all bad news. In previous economic recessions, many graphic companies improved and returned to profitable operating patterns, especially those that were involved with changes and guidelines applicable to their processes. In this document, we will present an in-depth and generalized analysis of the current global situation regarding graphic printing industry, short and long-term predictions for this fiscal year 2021 to 2022. We will explore current market trends, their benefits, and how you and your company could be part of a linear recovery to your productive revenues and operations that you have lost, especially using alternative flex technologies from the 21st century. Flex printing is a concept we are promoting as a standard economic trend for the graphics industry for the last 2 years, even long before the pandemic began. The implementation phases, to determine the required changes of each locality, will be evaluated and presented according to your interest in the topic. Extending printing capabilities and going beyond the traditional editorial and commercial lines, especially towards a new productive region not previously experienced by your operations, will be the topic to be discussed in future conversations. We understand that the global situation of graphic printing industry, especially for newspapers, is in a phase of transformation and contraction. Various factors are significantly influencing this new reality. The crisis of the pandemic brought new productive, financial, and administrative reorganization challenges, including the need to reinvent new business postures for emerging markets not previously explored. These required changes are of high importance and will represent the future of many graphic companies for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022. The survival of many graphic companies due to the need to diversify their productive capacities and assets for the operations of multiple graphic modules is already an unprecedented reality. First, we would like to highlight what these changes are, their causes, effects, and together be able to explain the alternatives to counteract these problems of contraction in editorial revenue and of commercial printing, ads, circulation, and the resistance created by the digital web. It was understood that an isolated company could not streamline its operations and reduce costs only with internal reorganizations, moreover, could not achieve any substantial growth, and linear only, based on cuts in its operating structures, lowering costs, and sacrificing qualified personnel, does not give them solids, nor competitive qualifications to make their company sustainable in the long term. Economists' predictions already clearly see growth in graphic printing for the third and fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Unfortunately, the predictions do not expect a substantial return in circulation demands, print ads, and subscriptions to newspaper and commercial readers. As such, the return do not expect the figures for the years and quarters of 2016 to 2020. The worldwide trend is to transform the production plant as a separate commercial printing entity, where not only the internal printing needs of its publishers are covered, but also allows third-party operations with additional printed maquilas. The idea is, diversify the productive capacities and their printing times without sacrificing their editorial commitments and commercials from its advertisers. Newspapers and graphics are becoming customers of their own publishing operations. With this, the entire operational range of printing and distribution changes to a new dimension in their operations, both financial and administrative. These transformations are allowing printing plants to expand their production volume capacities and expand additional revenues to their internal operations. As an example, we name some printed maquilas for other newspapers that were left at the mercy of the digital world only. The addition of commercial printing, such as books, manuals, magazines, and now with the pandemic, a new screed not seen before, the printing of disposable menus for restaurants, maquilas for department stores, supermarkets, and consumer orders for delivery, among others. Printing in alternative materials, such as plastic, cardboard, aluminum, satin, corrugated papers, packaging, and in some cases, even textiles, which have suffered a significant increase in recent years and continue to have a linear growth of more than 30% annually. The conversion has also had significant changes for sales departments, creating within the institutions an aligned separation between editorial sales and commercial maquila sales. These groups operate today in different ways and with different goals and business plans. Commercial sales continue to use established tools such as advertising agencies, sales staff for marketing, focused and directed purely to the sales of varied printed maquilas, bringing contracts with large stores, whether national and even international chains, and packaging. The productive demand returns, but more in form and alternative ways of printing. The figures are encouraging, solid, and promise a clear return on investment for companies with flexible capabilities in their printing modules. The closure of many commercial and newspaper companies, some venturing only to the digital media as a way out, found direct competition against already pre-established monopolies such as Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, AOL, Bloomberg, Facebook, Amazon, and others. These digital media giants invest billions of dollars annually for their expansion and operations constantly, an extremely high cost for medium and small companies to assume and be profitable with digital operations only. These monopolies remain extraordinarily strong and allow no space in markets with returns on investment that are sustainable and prosperous. Digital infrastructure requires a whole technical specialization that only large companies in that market can afford, and that is its advantage. Why do commercial prices remain difficult for competition in newspaper plants that only supply editorial products? What was discovered was that, by applying the operating expenses of the entire publishing operation, and adding them to the printing operations, it made sales prices more expensive for customers of printed maquilas. With this, the quotes were outside the pattern in competitive price when compared to the quotes of the commercial plants. The cost per hour of printing, an example of 4 to 5 hours a day, against all overheads of an editorial structure, gave a false value for quotes in maquila sales. The solution to this region involves a restructuring with the separation of editorial operations from the operations of production of printed material. For this, create printing volumes with multiple programmed modules during dead productive time that do not compromise the internal planning of the editorial printing, and finally, the expansion of assets with additional machinery to meet the production volumes and formats required by the market outside the editorial demand. When the volume of printing and the use of productive dead hours pass to additional productions, their competitiveness becomes a reality, and thus, the production operations become a real source of additional income, with a rapid return on the investments that are required in the processes. The trend is clear: print or be printed, and this will be the new norm after this crisis worldwide. Many sites are prepared by adding additional resources, with optional technologies. Some examples of these enhancements are ultraviolet, LED, infrared, technologies that allow a commercial shine and glossy finishing on papers in conventional newspaper or commercial machines, without presenting environmental contaminations. Alternative formats for folders, with folds purely orientated to commercial applications, including quarter fold, double parallel, delta, perforated, plow, sheet-fed, roll-to-roll for labels, and many others. Automation for stitching process with guillotine finishing, online and offline. Trilateral trimming for final product, automatically inline or offline. Direct printing from reels to sheeters or rolls, automatically, and with high speeds and volume. Equipment for varnish, silicone, perfume and others commercial applications and finishes. Printing on cartons for packaging with or without engraving. Sublimation processes in multiple items and materials for the marketing industry. Options to print in aluminum, cans, bottles, boxes, and many others, typically used in the packaging industry. Smart console controls with Zeta Plus digital control tools for quick make-ready, increment of production efficiency for small volumes, and the reduction of waste consumables to improve plant production efficiency to its maximum capacity. Smart dampening system control like Zeta Plus with couple base curves and pagination interface. Smart precision registration system Zeta Plus with pagination controls and stepper motors technology. Smart printing function controls with Zeta Plus including autopilot print functions. Production management system with programmed printing functions and exact automated controls for production statistics. Smart printing functions controls for make-ready, run speed, and deceleration auto-wash sequences Zeta Plus. The changes will be many, and the graphic printing market will continue to grow more in those regions, which do not necessarily depend on circulations or subscriptions of readers, and yes, on consumables of a generalized nature. The reactions of some newspapers and commercial printers to this pandemic, with the contraction of the print market, has been to sell assets and withdraw from the printing market as such, something that we consider absurd, with false speculations, dominated by the fear factor primarily, and in some cases, debts greater than the income of these companies, and this, they already did high-risk operations. It should be noted that others are carrying out transformations for market positioning, for example, are the operations of New York Times and Washington Post in the United States. Both are assuming consolidation logistics with extensions of their distribution routes, reducing operating costs, increasing production volumes, and implementations of flex technologies. The changes will be several in the coming months. The returns on investment will be based on current investments of market positioning, with the use of intelligent machines, high productive efficiency, using technologies of the 21st century, all of them, with modular printing investments directed only to zone markets. Positioning for the third and fourth quarters of this year will be a must for the 2021 to 2022 fiscal year. The printed maquilas, as they are commonly called, will continue to be an interesting region of high return on investment. Understanding their capacity and directing their operations will require implementations and technologies that can develop these regions. In our company, we have the right infrastructure and tools for these transformations, and that is why we put them at your disposal. By having this flex capability in your printing plants, your company will be able to serve maquila production in various markets, both with paper and other materials if you wish. The implementation of new technologies, such as flex printing, can also give you a leap towards high-efficiency editorial printing, commercial, packaging, and digital. Once established, these 4 modules will assume the demand for printed material for you, and undoubtedly a great success from 2022. Basically, the flex printing allows that, is the perfect balance for the demand of multiple customers, and the attention to the different graphic printing modules in sustainable growth. It is clear that the infrastructure of many printing factories only catered to their already established customer folders. The investments were always motivated by contracts in negotiations or pre-arranged for execution, but never, they invested based on having flexibilities with their printing modules for alternative products, and low volume. The process will be a little more extensive than just printing machines or modules. The investments, for the diversification of products using your existing infrastructure, is a study screed with application engineering, and will include audits with specific consultancies for each printing plant. To arrive at a specific plan for you, we need to understand and know what your current inventory is, study and evaluate your infrastructure and capacity, all this before proposing changes that we consider important for the flex transformation. Our audits and evaluations are free of charge, and we make them available to you. Any questions, do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you for your attention, and we apologize for the length of this document. More, as you will see, the subject is much more extensive than a simple investment for printing machinery. Once again, thank you for your attention, and do not hesitate to contact us.